Hey everyone, it's Amy Gretchen. Thank you so much for joining me today. And if you are new here, welcome. So today I'm working on my December Daily 2021 album yet again. And today is day 14 and 15. And actually what you're seeing me work on right now is day 15. I guess I start with 15 and then I move to day 14. So right here I've got a photo and it's going to extend out into a half circle there. And I decided I wanted to have the word right on it, and I could have just printed it with the word printed on it, but I thought it would look really pretty in silver. So I decided to do that with the foil quill. So what you saw at the beginning was the silhouette mat, and I had the We Are Memory Keepers magnetic mat on top of that, which is what I prefer to use when I'm using the foil quill on top of photos. So anyway, as you can see right now, I'm actually prepping my mat again to use the foil quill. So you can see me putting the foil down on top of a piece of paper. And you can see that you can do, little pieces of paper and use up your scraps if you want to. You just tape everything down and make sure it's pretty taut. And then you run it through your silhouette. I do have more videos about the foil quill if you are interested, but I think it's such a fun way to add some foil, some pizzazz, if you will, to your pages. So right here I'm creating a tag, and this came from Paislee Press or Liz Tamanaha. I believe she brought these out last year. It was a December release, and so she has all of the 12-1, 12-2, 12, 15. And it's, they were set up as tags, and it came with this little black, I don't even know what you call that, reinforcer that I'm putting on. And I think it came with these little tags as well, but I could be wrong. These tags I could have made from another one of her kits. I know that they are hers as well. And I ended up doing 4 because I thought perhaps these were sentiments that I would maybe use another time in my December daily. So if I feel like if I'm doing it once, I should do it more than I should do multiple. So I've got this tag and I'm trying to figure out how I want to incorporate it into the album. You'll see that I'll pull over the album and kind of get an idea how this tag is going to sit in the album. And that's when I, start making a few changes and cutting it down, if you will. But the first thing I'm going to do is put my holes in, and then I decided to wait on the half circle because I knew that I was going to have day 14 on the other half. So I'm waiting to punch those holes. But here I am putting it in my album to see how it fits in my album and to see how this tag is going to work. And I didn't really love how it was so wide and it was sticking out of the edge. I'm like, maybe a little, that would be okay, but I didn't love that it was so much. So I'm going to cut it down a little bit. I'm going to cut it down to 1.5 inches and then cut the length a little bit as well because it was hitting the bottom ring. And, I didn't love that either. So I'm really just trying to figure out how I'm going to incorporate this into the album and into the day. And so I grabbed over some twine, and I think that red is a DMC floss, if I remember correctly. And I'm just going to say, I have a love-hate relationship with twine and ribbon, and I have the hardest time making it work with my tags. I feel like it's like the worst part of making a tag is trying to put on the twine. And I know some of you are so good at it, but for whatever reason, I feel like it's very awkward. So I always struggle putting it on. But I do leave it all in. I don't edit it out so that you can kind of see me work through my process and see how my mind's working as I'm trying to figure out how I want this tag to work. So like I said, I believe this is DMC floss. This is just 2 threads together. And because those holes were so small, I thought that this would be perfect. Plus it's just a little added red. So I'm just working it, seeing how I can get it to fit, and I don't like it. It's not my favorite. Like I said, it feels really awkward. And as I continued to work through this, I was remembering the way Liz used it in her marketing. So when she was showing this on Instagram, she showed the twine on the side, like I am tying it right now. And it came to my mind and I was like, oh yeah, that was really, really cute. I really like that. But as I was doing it, I was like, well, it kind of looks weird with the hole in the center. And so I decided to redo it. So I just send it through my silhouette again with the foil quill. And this time I remembered the line. So it was supposed to have a 12 line and then a 15. I believe that was included. That's not something that I did. Anyway, I don't know how it got missed, but I fixed that. And then I'm writing the journaling on my back again. So you actually didn't see that the first time around, and I skipped it because my head was in the way and all you saw was my big old head. So I knew that I was going to redo it. So I decided to skip it the first time around, but I just hand journaled just a small bit of journaling for day 15. Love being able to get these smaller stories told. And then I'm just going to go ahead and add my twine onto the side. It does look a little bit awkward, but I do get it in. It's probably would have been a lot easier if I had just cut a new piece of twine, but I make it work. I definitely figure it out. So anyway, I'm really glad that I thought to use the DMC floss. I do actually have some red thread that I got years ago, but it's very fibrous and it gets fibers everywhere. So I loved having this as an option, and I'm just tying it in and I'm not worried about doing a bow or anything like that. It kind of almost looks like a present, and I really love the way this looks. So now I'm trying to figure out how to add this into my album, because I was like, oh yeah, I don't have a hole now where the other one had a hole in the center. So I decided that probably the best thing to do would be to add a hole onto the side. You can see that I pulled over a little piece of plastic to see if maybe that's how I would do it. But I thought, I will just punch a hole onto the side and I will add it that way. And I thought I will be able to hide the hole with the tag. But what I realized is it's kind of awkward because the ring gets in the way of the tag and it didn't sit the way I wanted it to sit. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like it's sometimes it's like one thing after another that's getting in the way of your design, right? It's like you have this idea of how you want it to look. And then as you're putting it together, you're like, oh yeah, design wise, this isn't working out the way that I thought it was going to work out. So I feel like there's a lot of trial and error when it comes to taking an idea that you have and actually executing it and getting it into the album. All right, so I am now going backwards. I'm now working on day 14, and I'm putting a photo on the back side of the circle. And I was holding that up because I was using the light to try and help me get it in the exact right place. I printed everything out with, using the same dye, or I would say the same mask, I guess, because I was doing it in Photoshop. So then I'm just cutting out some of the white just so you don't see any of the white peeking through. And this story, day 14, I'm trying to remember, day 14 was about, one of the things that I love so much about Christmas is the mornings by the tree, because I just really love the light. And so I will often go out by the tree and by the light and do my journaling. And so that's what this was all about, how I spent my morning. I went ahead and added the holes onto it, and that I'm going to work on the left side. So as you can see on the photo, I've actually got my journaling. So I don't have to worry about the journaling, and the left side is going to be more of a decorative page. And that's what's been really fun about working with this smaller album, is I feel like I've been able to add some photo journaling and then have like a decorative element to it. And I've really loved that about this album. I guess to say, that's probably pretty normal for a December daily, but for me, it feels doable because it's a smaller scale, opposed to when you're looking at a 6x8 piece of paper and you're like, okay, I can do something decorative, but this is just so big. A 4x5 or 4¼ by 5.5 just feels a little bit more manageable. So that's what I mean by that. All right, so I'm working on I'm trying to do a pattern paper, and I've got this cling stamp. This was from Simon Says Stamp and Kathy Zilski. I bought several years ago. It's probably still available. And if it is, I will have it linked below. They often will have collections for quite a while. And I'm using what I believe is fog. And I remember because the fog ink is typically this really beautiful light gray, but it came off really cream. And I think over time, because this is an old ink pad, it's from Simon Says Stamp, I think that I don't know, it got yellow, like the gray turned a little bit yellow. So it was kind of weird. So I didn't love it. I felt like it was a little too light. And so I grabbed over an ink color from, I believe, Altenew, because I have a bunch of Altenews in those small ink pads. And I can't remember the color. I could probably figure it out, but it's, one of the lighter browns. And I added that right on top. And isn't it really awesome? A tool like the Misti, which is what I'm using, it helps you so you can stamp down in the exact right place every time. And you don't have to worry about, if your stamp doesn't stamp correctly the first time, because you can just re-ink it and stamp it again and it stamps in the exact right place. I love that about the Misti tool. If you have any issue with stamping or you feel like your stamping is not that great, I would definitely invest in one of these tools. They have 3 sizes. I have this medium size, and then I have the larger size, which is 12 by 12, but they actually have a smaller size as well. I think it is an invaluable tool. It is a little bit more expensive, has a higher price point, but I just think it's so fabulous when it comes to stamping. At any rate, I decided that I didn't love the white. And so I thought maybe, doing a craft paper would work a little bit better. So I grabbed over some craft paper, and I think I used the same brown. I can't remember what ink color I used on that, but I didn't love it. I can't remember why now. Maybe I thought it was a little too dark. So I did it one more time. I stamped it one more time, and this time I just used the Versamark ink. So the Versamark ink is sticky ink, and it's something that you would use with embossing powder, but it's also really great when you're wanting to stamp kind of monochromatic, because when you stamp on dark cardstock, it just gives a darker version of that color. And so I went ahead and did that, and I really liked the way it looked. Interesting thing to note, when I look at my album right now, that pattern that I use with the Versamark ink is really, really faded. It's really even hard for me to see that there is trees. I mean, I can see it, and especially because I know it's there, but it's really, really faded. So what I should have done, and if I was going to do this all over again, I would stamp that with the Versamark ink, and then I would put clear embossing powder on top of it, and that way it would have sealed in the color, and it would not have faded. And so I wish I had done that, but I didn't. So now it just looks a little bit more subtle, but keep that in mind. If you're doing anything with Versamark ink, it will likely fade. So I would use clear embossing powder to kind of seal that in. All right. So the last thing that I'm going to do, which is always like, I don't want to say it's the biggest challenge, but I feel like it often takes the most time when I'm putting things together, is figuring out what number I want to use and how I want to use the number. So I was actually stamping with my date stamp to see if I liked that, and I was using the paper that I wasn't going to use just to see if I liked the placement. I didn't really like that, and I think partially because I was using black. I think if maybe I had used red, I would have liked it a little bit better. But then I grabbed over the wood stamp, the wood number that I had cut out, and I really loved that. I loved that it was more neutral, that it, went with the colors in the photo, and also, with the cardstock that I had chosen. So I just felt that it worked really well instead of really standing out. So I really liked that. Also, I failed to mention this Calm and Bright came in the 2021 kit. I believe it came in the kit, not separate. It came in the kit this year. There was several different ones. So I was really happy to be able to get one that fit, because there were some that were a little bit larger that maybe would not have fit in this album. although I could have cut it down. So anyway, that is where that came from. That is definitely something you could have used with the digital file. You could have made it a little bit smaller or bigger depending on the size of your album. So that would have been an option. Actually, as I was editing this video, I was thinking that it would have been nice to cut out that calm and bright just to put underneath it so that it would have popped up a little bit more and maybe looked a little bit more substantial, almost like cardstock. So that would be an option as well if you wanted to cut them out and stack them on top of each other so it was a little bit thicker. All right, now I'm just adhering it onto the back of day 13. And then I'm going to cut off the edge because it didn't match perfectly. So I just cut off the edge off screen and then I'm punching the holes. And you guys, I'm done with days 14 and 15. So it was a lot of fun using this half circle, and I really loved using a full photo on day 15 as well. So thank you guys again for being here. Really appreciate it. And if you like what you saw, please give this video a thumbs up. It really does help out my channel. And of course, if you like what you saw, don't forget to subscribe. All right, you guys, we will see you in the next video. Bye.